Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I got to the day right this time. Everyone, give a huge welcome to Rob, a new fellow leftist YouTuber. Rob, welcome.
Hola, everybody. Sorry about last time, but we got it figured out, and I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. I want to give shout outs to people in the chat. Welcome, Hassan. Hello, how are you? I can't wait to see what dark money is flowing into the Justice Democrats, depending on where the money is coming from. It is further proof that the organization has been co opted. We will get into that later on tonight. Hello, Ashura. Rokana's wife has stock in the military industrial complex. So does Roe not profit from that in any way? That's a good question. Greetings, Notorious. Always great to see you here. Hello, Nadia. Good to see you as well. Welcome, Greg, who's a Sabby Sabs member. Welcome, Eric, who's also a Sabby Sabs member. Welcome, everyone. Shout out to NG Stardust, who's also a Sabby member. Hello, happy Friday. Yes, I'm so glad we made it to the weekend. And welcome, Malik. Always a pleasure to see you. Shout out to everyone watching on Rockfin. Can't forget about you guys. And welcome to Sabby Saps Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. My special guest today, I told you guys, is Rob Durden. He is a newer leftist commentary, and I really like a lot of his videos. So, Rob, why don't you tell everybody like why you decided to start doing this and where you're based out of?
Well, I'm based out of Peoria, Illinois, and by trade, I'm a chiropractor, and I quit my job in November due to I had to see hundreds of patients a day sometimes, and when COVID was getting really bad, I quit. And when Joe Biden got elected, and I think to some extent also the Medicare for All floor vote failure kind of made me decide that I wanted to put some of these ramblings that I was just rambling to my wife or my friends in my personal life online. And my wife was like, why don't you just do it? So she bought me an iPhone, and I decided to just basically set up in my basement and do kind of like a poor man's political show where I would just pick one or two news stories a day, cover those stories, but then also give you my commentary. And if you know anything about my channel, I kind of also keep track of a lot of other lefty YouTubers where I'll treat it like March Madness, where I'm like watching most of their content, grading it, and then ranking them and kind of giving you guys some updates on how other channels are doing. So that's kind of my shtick. And I must say, Sabby, you've been doing excellent work lately. 8,000K or 8,000 subs. That's excellent. Fred Hampton Leftist, shout out to you guys as well. They're up well over 8,500. And that's just kind of my thing. And I've honestly become a little addicted to it. I think I'm just going to keep doing it because I love it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it has been a ride. Oh, Lawrence said OMG Peoria is in Illinois Tornado Alley.
Yeah, we get a lot of windstorms. And with climate change, that has been getting quite a bit worse. We actually had something that hasn't happened in like 100 years happen this previous spring called a Derico, which is a 100-mile long wind wave. And it actually blew all of our like corn crops flat. I've never heard of a Derico until it actually hit us last year. It was terrifying.
Oh my God. I've never heard of that either.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
Kathy said, what is his channel called?
It's just my name, Robert Durden. I call it Political Fight Club, but it's just, if you could look up the name, the way it's displayed, you'll find me.
Awesome. Awesome. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Let me share my screen really quick and pull up my picture here. All right. So interesting things have happened this week. Tonight, we're going to talk about Justice Dems' Dark Money, which that came out recently. Rachel Maddow's $30 million salary. And I have an update about the national general strike that's scheduled for October 15th. So we're going to get into those. Rob, since you're the guest, which one would you like to start with first?
Well, let's start off with Rachel Maddow. I always like to start off with a good laugh.
All right, cool. Let's get into that. Let me stop sharing. I'm gonna pull up that article. So I heard about this on Twitter. I couldn't believe it at first. I was like, no way this is true. No way. But then I looked it up and yes, this is actually true. So let me share my screen. No, I don't want to subscribe, bud. Don't want to subscribe or join. Let me get out of here. Come back in.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like stranger than fiction. And as kind of a satirist, the way I do things, this makes my job very easy.
Oh my God, here we go. Yeah, still can't believe this. So NBC Universal will give Maddow 30 million annually while ending her show next year and giving their top star a more flexible schedule than ever before. So not only does she get an increase, but she also gets a flexible schedule. So there you go.
She's earned it. She's done a lot of really hardcore propaganda over the last couple of years.
Oh my God. So here's what it says here. The deal will give Maddow, the highest rated host of MSNBC, a jaw-dropping 30 million per year to keep her with the company through the 2024 election. Everybody remember that and hold on to that. Through the 2024 election. According to 4 people familiar with the matter. As part of the deal, Maddow's long-running 9 p.m. nightly broadcast will end next year. Instead, after stepping back from the Rachel Maddow show, she will host a weekly program set to air roughly 30 weeks out of the year. Listen to this, you guys. The contours of the deal were reported in outlets including the Wall Street Journal and CNN, which first noted the end to Maddow's famed show. But the Daily Beast has learned NBC Universal News Corp, the parent company of left-leaning cable news network MSNBC, made some other massive concessions in a deal that will ultimately mean less Maddow airtime overall. So let me pop out of here for a second, because basically she's going to work less, but she's going to be paid more.
Yeah, yeah, and as someone who kind of looks at these things like sports, it really does sound like to me like they're describing a sports contract for like their all-star player, which is crazy. And what is happening here, I think, is that they realize that they can get their sort of mainstream media, Democratic Party narrative propaganda out through her in an entertaining way because she does have very good ratings. But if you guys remember correctly, she or people from MSNBC, the lawyers from MSNBC, recently had to argue in court that no reasonable person would listen to what Rachel Maddow has to say and consider it factual, because she actually called all the people at One American News Network, which is an extremely right-wing network, Russian bots or Russian assets or whatever. Now, everybody knows that's not true, but that's all Rachel Maddow knows how to do. She's a parrot that says Russia, 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 and that's to some extent what MSNBC wants. They want somebody that can put out their narrative that isn't at all fact-based out in an entertaining way. And this also happened with Tucker Carlson. So what you're seeing now is a bunch of these mainstream media pundits having to literally argue in court that no one would take me seriously as an actual news person. I'm just, a more or less entertainment. And it's interesting that they're paying through the nose for that kind of entertainment. And they're admitting tongue in cheek that this is not at all a news network anymore.
Absolutely. JB said the cast of Friends made $1 million per episode. Fictional shows make money like that.
Yeah, and like Charlie Sheen for 2.5 Men. You guys remember back in the day, they used to talk about the insane amount of money he was getting. It's because no one else can play that part. And Rachel Maddow, they know what they're getting. So they're giving her the contract that keeps her locked in. It's just like sports.
Yeah, what I'm really concerned about is the fact that they're going to keep her on through the 2024 election.
Yeah, and if she does her job very well, and let's say hypothetically, I think Trump might get reelected. I've been leaning towards that because Biden's numbers are not looking good, and they shouldn't look good. If Trump becomes the boogeyman again, they may even pay her more after that. So she might have even negotiated a short contract, and they may have offered her till 2028 or whatever. And she goes, no, I want to see how things go. And if Trump gets reelected, I want $40 million a year because I'm the only one that can propagandize him the way I do.
Yep. No, absolutely. I'm just really concerned because guys, they're paying her more money to continue to lie. And she was one of the people, one of the commentators that was really, really pushing Russiagate.
Yeah, indeed. She was actually probably the chief perpetrator of or perpetuator of that narrative. And that's been widely discredited. I mean, she was hook, line, and sinker on all of that stuff. And we now know that all of it was nonsense. And she even went to the extent to allege that Trump was like having backroom deals with Putin, smoking cigars, like fist bumping and stuff. It's like Tom Clancy novel stuff. And none of it has ever been substantiated. And now we know it's all bogue. So theoretically, she should just not have a job. But that's not really what they're trying to peddle at MSNBC. They're not trying to give you the news. They're trying to give you Rachel Maddow's opinion about Russian meddling in our elections and in our political system, because that's what they know their viewers want. And it's usually older Democrats are usually the people that watch MSNBC. And that's the reason they tune in. They like that type of propaganda. And she's good at peddling it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the fact that like some like Hollywood actors, like remember like back in the day, like I don't know, I guess before Netflix, before like Netflix was huge, like remember it was like a big deal for like I don't know, Brad Pitt or oh God, I forget her name. I forget who was the first woman, the first female actress to make like $20 million a movie. But that was like a big deal for like an actor or actress to make $20 million a movie. And they're paying her $30 million.
Yeah, it might have been Julia Roberts, but don't quote me on that. But she was the highest paid for a while. But it is crazy to me. And I think you're going to see a trend starting where they will start literally paying tens of millions of dollars a year for the people they know on Fox, on CNN, on MSNBC, on all these mainstream networks that can peddle their propaganda in an entertaining way to keep ratings up. And if they can do that, they can have their cake and eat it too, in that they get to perpetuate the narrative that they really need, but they can also have a lot of people tune in for entertainment value so they can advertise or get advertisers to spend money on their networks. So Tucker Carlson, these people that have the highest rated shows on these mainstream networks, they're about to get paid. Like Mike Trout, Miguel Cabrera, enormous numbers for their services because they're basically battle tested. These networks know what they're getting with these people. So, you know, Tucker Carlson, I think eventually he'll have a contract that makes this look ridiculous, small.
Agreed. B Team said 30 million to scare the shit out of wine moms. What a gig.
Exactly. Exactly.
What's going on, Colin? Always great to see you. Eric Thomas said, show them the money. So Aaron Mate tweeted about this, and I want to share his tweet. I think he was talking about Hollywood too, because this was really interesting. I was like, is this for real? Like, honestly, when I first saw this on Twitter, I was like, no way this is real. No way this is real.
Right. Like I said, it makes my job easy as a satirist because it seems like something that's stranger than fiction.
Exactly. So Aaron Mate tweeted, in Hollywood, even the most overpaid actors have at least some acting chops.
Right. And Aaron Mate is one of the people that really exposed Russiagate back in the day. He was one of the first people to say this is not exactly the way things are going down. He even went on TYT Network and debated Cenk Uygur on this exact thing. So he has a leg to stand on. He's extremely intelligent. He's a great journalist. And if I may, Aaron has also realized, I think recently, that he's also very endearing and funny as a human being on like live streams and stuff. And people tend to like watching him. So he's coming out of his shell in a way that's less journalistic, and he's spicing up his content in a way that's really entertaining as well. And because of it, he and a lot of the other boys from the gray zone, like Max Blumenthal, have become sort of like rock stars on the left lately. And I shout them out regularly. The Gray Zone does fantastic work journalistically, but also they're all kind of funny, endearing guys that work there. So that has helped a lot. And I love Aaron Mate.
Yeah, he went on to say, in media, the most overpaid people not only do no journalism, but continually disgrace the profession. E.g., this host who spent years promoting a conspiracy theory that Trump is a Russian asset. Absolutely,
In,
absolutely.
indeed, without a doubt. And it's not just her. It's also TYT taking money from billionaires, including right wingers like Buddy Roemer, who used to
Mm-hmm.
be the governor for Louisiana. And it seems to me that there's at least a correlation, but I think we'll find out causation later, that the rhetoric tends to change when you start taking a lot of money from bigwig donors that have a vested interest in controlling your narrative.
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. Let me close this window really quick. Speaking of Max Blumenthal, everybody, Max Blumenthal will be here Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock with me, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I have a lot to talk to him about, especially given everything that's happened this week with the Supreme Court, with eviction moratoriums, with Biden's plans to come after ISIS again. So that'll be a really deep discussion. So, guys, definitely tune in for that. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. Greetings, greetings. Amy said, as usual, Aaron is 100%. Yeah, I mean, I just remember that. And I was like, they were so banking on, they were like, we're going to take Trump down with Russiagate. Like, that's how he's going to go down. All of MSNBC. But Rachel was the worst.
Indeed. And here's the thing with all of these mainstream networks that went hook, line, and sinker on that, is that they have to double down or apologize, retract, but none of them, you notice, have retracted. What they do is they just double down, and what you've got on TYT now is a massive amount of McCarthyite smearing that didn't used to be there. And suddenly they're just everybody that disagrees with the official narrative on things like the bombing in Syria and the gas attacks in Doma, which Aaron Mate has done great work on and exposing the cover up there. They immediately just smear you as a Russian asset. And that's why I often joke that if Rachel Maddow ever decides to like leave MSNBC, that Anna Kasparian would be a great replacement.
I could see her doing that though.
For real. I mean, she just has to change her hairstyle. Really. They're about the same person.
Yeah, I could see that. It's really interesting. I want to get into the second story. I'm going to pivot to Justice Democrats' dark money. And this is really interesting because I want to get, first of all, Rob, like I'm going to tell everybody about this, and then I want to get your take on this story, but also your take on the people who keep saying that we need to put like Justice Democrats in, and that's how we're going to like make progress and change in this country. So let me share my screen. So this came out the other day, you guys, and I want to give a huge shout out to Robbie from the MCSC network because he has been doing phenomenal reporting. If you guys are not familiar with him, my screen is bigger. If you're not familiar with him, please become acquainted with Robbie Yeager, because he does a lot of financial reporting, and he is able to find things that the rest of us cannot find. So this is what came out recently about Justice Democrats. So listen to this. So I'm going to go to the original tweet from Robbie, and here we go. Update: at No Excuses PAC finally reports their quarter one numbers. They raised 92,000 with 25,000 coming from Way to Lead Us, whose largest donors are George Soros and Liz Simmons, daughter of James. They spent $14,000 on an anti-mansion cinema ads. Their co-founder, Corbin Trent, got $15,000. And I'm just going to pull up the picture here because I want you to see that Robbie always comes with receipts, and I don't know how far I can zoom in here for you guys to see this. It probably won't show it anymore, but basically, these are his receipts where he can see how all the money has been spent. And then here is a detailed summary page that goes a little bit deeper into this. But then I'm going to go back to the retweet up here because this is important. This Justice Dems spinoff PAC aimed at running negative ads against Senator Manchin and Sinema raised 101K from February through June. That's a lot of money, you guys, just from February through June. They spent $14,000 on ads all before May. Their co-founder paid himself $37,500. They still have $33,000 in the bank because, you know, payroll and stuff. So the question that I have, and I'm just going to pop out of here for a second, and I'm going to share this picture, which I think is going to make a lot of us laugh, because this is interesting because I want to show you something with this picture. This was when Jamal Bowman won. Pay attention to what it says right here. Justice Democrats beat the machine. Join us. But now we see that Justice Democrats has dark money too. So they're not really beating the machine. Robbie, I want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to talking about this. This was the one of the three that was most exciting to me. The rift on the left right now that I'm seeing in lefty media, and I think that is indicative of what you would see in leftist of the populace, is that there's a group that thinks that the Democratic Party has not co-opted the AOCs and the squad of the world. And then there's another camp that sees the writing on the wall, sees that these people are more or less exactly the same as some of the more centrist Democrats when it comes to how they actually legislate, but their rhetoric is only slightly more progressive. Now, the one thing that seemed to be separating the Justice Democrats from the neolibs even today was the fact that they still don't take, big dollar donations. They don't take dark money, right? That was the one thing they had to hang their hat on. And now it seems that if you put yourself in the shoes of somebody like AOC, who's getting a lot of flack from the actual left nowadays, you're given the choice to pick one side or the other. And it seems that they have picked their side. It seems that they're like, well, we're not really ever going to be able to convince the real lefties to trust us anymore. Our track record isn't good enough to actually get these people on board. So I might not have any choice but to move towards big dollar donations in the future. And this isn't the first time this has happened either. One of the reasons I was critiquing Nina Turner on my show was that she hired Jeff Weaver as a campaign manager to run her campaign. And Jeff Weaver notoriously tried to get Bernie Sanders to take billionaire money in his 2019 run. So this is the ratchet effect. It's asymmetrical polarization. It's the Democrats ever so slowly, including the squad, moving more and more center as time goes on. And they realize that if they don't legislate for grassroots people and don't legislate for the people, they're going to have a hard time raising money. So therefore, where do you make up the money? You have to pick a side. And if you don't go all out for the people, they won't donate to you. So therefore, your only option is to try to fundraise in other places. So I saw this coming a while back. And this is one of the things that concerned me so much about Nina Turner's campaign, was that she did surround herself with consultants who we don't really trust on the left anymore. And that's why I think she did fine in terms of donations. I think she outraised Chantel Brown, her opponent, 2-1. But it was concerning to me that she was hiring a bunch of these people who are more or less okay with taking big dollar donations and thereby selling the trustworthiness of the squad and people like Nina Turner down the river.
I agree. Here's another tweet from Robbie here. And guys, listen to this, okay? He said, at No Excuses PAC, the Justice Dems spinoff PAC, who ran ads against Senator Manchin and Sinema early this year, has been warned by the FEC for failing to disclose their Q1 financials. Guys, this is like, I'm going to pull up, let me stop sharing. I'm going to pull up that letter. It's a picture, so bear with me because, you know, it's going to be tiny, but I'm going to zoom in as much as I can. All right, and I'm going to share my screen. This is the part that I want you to see. I just want you guys to see that, again, Robbie always comes with receipts. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, this is just someone saying this. No, like, look at this. So here's the letter. Here's the part I want you to pay attention to. It is important that you file this report immediately with the Federal Election Commission, 1051st Street, Northeast, Washington, D.C. Please note the Federal Election Commission's office remains closed to visitors, and most of its employees are continuing to telework in an effort to limit the spread of the virus, yada, yada. Moving down. Please note that electronic filers must submit their reports electronically. Let me go back up to the top. 1 second. This is funny. Dear Treasurer, it has come to the attention of the FEC that you may have failed to file the above reference report of receipts and disbursements, or failed to file a report covering the entire reporting period as required by the FEC Act, the Federal Election Campaign Act. Coming out. So I just have questions for everybody, because when Nina Turner lost, and I said this before again, I'm not like, you know, a fan of electoral politics anymore, but I did want Nina to win. But remember all the people, all the commentators that were saying that she lost because all this dark money came in. And now we see that Justice Democrats also has dark money. So who can you really trust here? Like, what does this say to people who are still into electoral politics and they want to put progressives in, especially Justice Democrats? This does not look good. Where did all that money go?
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. It doesn't look good. The optics are very bad, because it's like they're basically admitting, oh, if you can't beat them, join them. And their constituents that put them there are like, no, beat them. Go in there and fight, and actually vote as a block, you know, do Tea Party tactics, do whatever you got to do. The last thing we want to see is you start adopting the same tactics of the people that we don't like in the Democratic Party. And that's why it's so sad, because I donated to all of these people. I promoted Nina Turner, and on my show, the way I always thought about it was, I want Nina to win, because I want to see if she can actually go in there and unite the squad in a way with her leadership qualities that would get them to vote as a block. Mm-hmm. But I predicted that she would win narrowly, but she would go in there and essentially acquiesce. And then what we would have done was we ran the Nina experiment. If Nina Turner, who is more or less considered like the pinnacle of Justice Democrat ideology, Democratic Reformation, somebody that really has the chops and the name value to go in there and really do some things, if she goes in there and acquiesces, we have the conclusion then that nobody can go in there and unite the squad, that Democratic Reformation is in fact a fool's errand. Now, she didn't end up winning. And the reason for that was, in fact, the dark money that got poured in there. But my response to the people that would argue that that was the reason she lost, all that dark money that went into those negative ads at the last second. Yeah, no kidding. We've known that that's what they're going to do for years. And Nick from the Fred Hampton Leftist has laid this out better than I ever could. But basically, you know that the Democratic Party is going to do that. So isn't the onus on us to come up with different strategies to defeat that play? When Bernie Sanders lost in the primaries, we saw an enormous amount of dark money coalescing around Joe Biden and, of course, other opponents. But then we also saw that essentially that coup at the last second where everybody dropped out, got behind Biden. He collected a whole bunch of big name endorsements, and they had the dark money. And that essentially defeated Bernie. But we knew the blueprint of the play that they were going to use to defeat somebody like Nina. And yet we still ran the same play that all the Justice Democrats have been winning, which is, I've been saying on my show That's the definition of insanity. You're running the same play over and over again and expecting different results. So my solution was, without going too far down the rabbit hole, it would have helped her tremendously, Nina Turner, to run more like, I'm going to go in there and be the leader of the squad. They're not evil. They're just spineless, or they don't know how the politics works. So I'm going to go in there and unite them, show them how it works, conk their knuckleheads together, and get them to vote as a block. She should have run on that from the beginning. She should have also, when Shontel Brown got the endorsement from Hillary Clinton, the first thing Nina should have done with the money that she would definitely get from the influx of donations that always comes with a Hillary Clinton donation for the opponent is immediately start posting like billboards and ads that say Hillary Clinton and her husband are responsible for NAFTA, which decimated the Midwest, and just hammer home the way Trump did. Hillary loves Shontel Brown. Shontel Brown, therefore, is for the same types of things that decimated the Midwest, like NAFTA. And if she had hammered that home, along with running with the original messaging I was talking about, and then the last thing she should have done is she should have gone to the Medicare for All march. She only lost by about 4,000 votes. Had she been more militant against Shontel and linked her with Hillary Clinton, and then also gone to the Medicare for All march and promoted it with people like AOC and gotten thousands of people to go to the Medicare for All march, I think Nina probably wins, or at least it's much closer. So this was, to some extent, a cozying up of Nina Turner to the squad, which I think was, the squad is not trusted the way they used to be. And we don't want on the left somebody who's going to go in there and perform like the squad. So I found that to be a supremely tactical error. Same thing with not promoting nor going to the Medicare for All march. And I would have also weaponized the endorsement of Hillary Clinton for Shontel Brown, and she might actually win the election. So it's not the leftists' fault. It's certainly not any YouTuber's fault that she didn't win. And in fact, many of the people that have been blamed for taking Nina down, wrongfully so, on the left, actually wanted her to win, but we weren't surprised when she didn't.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I want to shout out JB's super chat. If they can't succeed without dark money, then what's the point of supporting Democrats?
Exactly. And I think her losing this election is further proof that electoral politics is really a fool's errand, and that I think 99% of our efforts should be towards third party and, even more importantly, mutual aid. The fact that Nina outraised Shontel Brown 2-1 and still lost, we have to get our heads around the possibility that a Justice Democrat may never, ever be elected again. I don't think this formula. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because something that we've been talking about recently is that it seemed like in the beginning when Justice Dems started running, I don't think establishment Democrats took them seriously. I don't think they thought they really had a chance of winning, right? And so AOC got in along with Ayanna Pressley, and Ayanna Pressley was in my district at the time. I lived in her district, and I voted for her. And I watched her debate first against her opponent, and the guy that she ran against, he wasn't like this horrible, like, politician or whatever. He was establishment, but he wasn't like crazy horrible as like the guy that AOC ran against. He wasn't like, Crowley. He wasn't like, Elliot Engel. But I still thought, even then, I was like, you know what? I think she has a chance of winning, because she pointed out the fact that, yes, you've been doing the same thing for all these years that you've been in office. We know that you're a part of the community, but we need people to be more bold. And so when she said that, I was like, you know what? I think she could have a chance to beat him. But I don't think the establishment Democrats in office, I don't think they really expected the Justice Democrats that were running to win. I don't think they thought AOC was going to win. I don't think Joe Crowley thought that AOC was going to win. That's why he still wasn't really around until like the race started to get close. And then all of a sudden he showed up in the district that he doesn't live in and doesn't really visit. And then after they won, it seemed like to me, the establishment Democrats, they adjusted and were like, okay, we can't have this happen again. So we need to come up with a plan. And they did. And they realized that someone like Jim Clyburn, who I cannot stand, that he could be really effective with the Black community because he has connections with the Black church. He has connections with sororities and fraternities. And he, was involved in like civil rights, like back in the day. Okay. They realized he could be utilized to get Black voters in the South. They realized, oh, let's still try to use Hillary Clinton, even though she lost to Trump, you know? So they were able to adjust and prevent other Justice Dems from getting, especially after Cory Bush won. I think that was a really eye-opening for them. They were just like, okay, that's it. We gotta do something here. We gotta put a freeze to this. And they did the same strategy that they did to Bernie in South Carolina when Bernie was running in the Democratic primaries. They took that same strategy and used it in Ohio against Nina Turner.
Yeah, and I think we really do have to adjust if we're going to go the electoral way. I have some ideas on how to do that, but I don't really have much faith in electoral politics anymore because even the ideas I have, I think, have a low probability of actually working when that amount of dark money is going to be included. I mean, exactly what kind of ratios are we talking about here? Do we need to outraise the opponents 4 or 5 to 1? To have a chance? I don't think that people on the left, especially since a lot of us are, lower middle class or poor people, have the pocket change to just donate infinitely to these candidates anymore now that we know what we're up against. And that's what a lot of these YouTube channels that I kind of go after that are more Democratic Reformation, that's what they kind of want you to do. And I just don't see any future there. And I don't see any reason why we should spend so much of our money putting people in there, especially since we have the evidence in front of us that the people we've put in there aren't doing anything. So it's impossible for me to morally try to convince people to give to a system that we can all see is not working. And we need to wrap our heads around the possibility that I don't think another Justice Democrat will ever be elected again. I don't know if there's a way to do it. If there is, you have to run militant lefty. Shahid Buttar, who I saw you've had on your show before, if he runs against Nancy Pelosi again with the campaign slogan "Screw Nancy Pelosi," he might win. You have to literally go, I'm going to promise you guys, my constituents, that my goal is to go in there and make enemies with the Democratic Party, and I will not sell out in a way that the others have in terms of careerism. And what I would do, and I've called this a kamikaze campaign, where you run on, I will get X, Y, and Z done by a certain date, or I will resign. And beyond that, I will not stay in Congress more than 10 years regardless, because I don't want to make a career of this. And then you just might be able to convince enough people that you're not going to go in there and sell out to get them to donate to you again. But even that, I think, is, a low probability, because I don't know if this trust can really be gained back again. So if I were running for Congress, which I would never do, but if I were running right now, I would immediately just go ultra militant against the Democratic Party. I would go stop using kid gloves with the squad and critique them for their poor performance, but just be like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to no nonsense, conk all their heads together and get them to vote as a block. And if you give me your donations, that's what I will do. And here's the deal. Here's a couple of things I can get for you. These can all be done without Congress, right? These are all executive orders or things that can be done unilaterally by Joe Biden, and you could try to convince him to do so. I will try to get college tuition and debt completely removed, completely forgiven, which Joe Biden can absolutely do using the Higher Education Act of 1965, Section 432A. I will get marijuana legalized and removed from Schedule 1, and all nonviolent drug offenders in jail or prison for marijuana violations expunged and let out of jail, because those are both things you can do via executive order. And right now, as long as the pandemic's going, remember, Joe Biden can also unilaterally give all of us Medicare for all using the Social Security Act. I think it's Section 1881 Alpha. It's part of Obamacare. If you as the president of the United States, you can say that we're having a pandemic. It's a national emergency. So therefore, I'm going to give everybody healthcare. Now, if you're the squad, you go, listen, I'm going to try to get you those three things because there's no way that the administration can argue that it can't be done. They
Yep.
can't blame those things on Republicans. They're easy as the flick of a pen. So if you run on something like that, like, listen, I'm just going to go in there and make Joe Biden and his whole administration hate me. I'm going to smear them every chance I get, or not smear them, but come out on media sites and just talk about how much they stink on these things and how easy it would be to get all three of these things. And you just badger the living heck out of them, you might actually get people to donate for you for that type of what I call a kamikaze campaign. But you can't have careerism in your vocabulary if you're going to run a campaign like that. And also, I might mention pardoning and dropping the charges against Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Daniel Hale, although the whistleblowers is also something that can be done unilaterally. And that would be also on my list of things I would run on.
Yep, absolutely. I'm gonna go to some of the super chats here. Where did it go? Oh, Cool Blue said, topic realignment. Has anyone considered that the two major parties are realigning? That upper middle class and rich people are trending for the Dems, that the working class are trending for the Republicans? That is a really good question, Cool Blue. That's a good point, because remember, Trump's big thing when he was running was that we're going to bring jobs back from overseas to the US. We're going to help out the working class. Remember, Hillary Clinton, she did not go to the Rust Belt. She ignored the Rust Belt, which was a huge mistake. And Trump ate that up and really spoke to the working class people. So that's a good point. Cool Blue. I feel like the Democratic Party has become more of this academic elite party. It started with, because I think Bill Clinton was the last, at least in my generation, Bill Clinton was the last working class, because Bill Clinton came, he's like, I know what it's like to be poor. He's like, I came from poverty. He said, I know what it's like. I feel like he was the last person that really kind of spoke for the working class people, even though he did things behind the scenes that didn't really work out for unions and things like that. But when Obama came on board, Obama was just, corporate, elite, Wall Street. And I feel like it's been that way ever since. It has not changed. I'm going to shout out this super chat, and I'm going to get your opinion, Rob. Yummy Socialist, thanks so much for the super chat. If Malcolm and MLK weren't afraid to fight, then what's the squad's excuse? So I have a comment about that. Totally get your point. But Malcolm and Malcolm, I don't know what's going on today, guys. It's Friday. Malcolm and MLK weren't politicians. And this is why one of the things that we say at FHL a lot, this is why politicians should not lead a movement, because their allegiance is to the party that they are elected to. It's not to us, even though we put them in office. It's our dollars, our money that put them in office, but they still went into the Democratic Party. So at the end of the day, that's who they're going to support first. I want to get your take on this, Rob.
Well, I think you nailed it. And that's becoming more and more apparent. And I think that's part of the reason the left is fracturing right now, because the people that are like me, and I think yourself and the rest of the Fred Hampton leftists understand, is that the mask is now off. We can see the writing on the wall with the squad's effort, and regardless of their, flowery rhetoric that says they're still for a lot of this stuff, we can see that they haven't done anything. Now, talking about just briefly Bill Clinton, I'm reading Matt Taibbi's The Divide right now on my show. And one of the things that Clinton did is he was actually, your rhetoric, or the rhetoric you were talking about is correct. But what he actually did was even worse than a lot of Republican presidents, because he was the one that deregulated Wall Street, made it almost impossible to sue a lot of these Wall Streeters that were starting, or they're doing these enormous hedge funds and doing all of this ridiculously crime-filled trading on Wall Street. But he also, because of the crime bill, which Biden was instrumental in crafting, by the way, a lot of people of color and poor people ended up having a way harder time with the criminal justice system. You ever heard of broken windows policing? Became much worse because of Bill Clinton, where you have a lot of these people in the inner cities that can be picked up by police for no reason other than standing on the sidewalk, and they call that loitering, or obstructing pedestrian traffic is what they call it in the book. Or even if you're doing nothing, literally police officers can come and pick you up and say you fit a description. They'll arrest you for nothing. And then once you get stuck in the criminal justice system that Clinton set up, which is like horrible for poor people. I mean, cash bail, all of these things. Once you get sucked in, even if you have the ability to fight the citation that they gave you, that you were arrested for, it still takes months, if not years, to finally get off the hook. So it's extremely costly for poor people to even fight this. So a lot of them, what they end up doing is they plea bargain out of it for convenience purposes. But when you plea bargain, you have to take a guilty plea. You have to, and then once you get out, you've plea bargained and you have that on your record. It makes it impossible for you to get a job after you get out. So Bill Clinton, in a lot of ways, and Chris Hedges says this all the time, was probably one of the darkest, if not the worst, Democratic president. In a lot of ways, set up the wealth gap and the inequality that we have nowadays. And it's all the more evidence that really the two-party duopoly, as George Carlin said, the shit we shuffle around every 4 years, they're more or less the same on paper. It's just slightly rhetorically different on social issues that we have our difference. But people like us, we see the writing on the wall. And this is part of the reason why we think it's ridiculous to try to get poor people and poor leftists in particular to vote for the Democratic Party, which we know doesn't have their interest at heart.
Nope. Not at all. Well said. I want to give a shout out to Miss Anthropic and Out of Coffee. Again, I still love that name. Thanks so much for the super chat. The MPP Black Voters Circle statement was written because Black activists were against the party's use of the N-word during meetings. How can we support a third party when its leadership blacklists Blacks for being too Black? So let's talk about that, because this has come up a couple of times. I've heard from volunteers. I've heard from other people. That's a good question. And I told you guys again, I'm not a big fan of electoral politics. It just is what it is. But if I am going to vote, I would rather vote third party just because I'm sick of the two-party system. Now, that being said, though, I do want to say this. Whatever is going on in these meetings, these chats, whatever's, I wasn't there, but this cannot continue. You cannot allow people to use this. You cannot. And if it happens, please come back and correct it and try to fix it and move forward, because people, it's not just about hurting people. It's not just about the racist tone to it. It's about respect. And if you want to create a movement, people a part of that movement got to be respected. Got to be respected. All races, men, women, everybody has to be respected. It is not an easy conversation to have. I'm just going to go ahead and say that and be real. But you have to be willing to have these conversations. And it's unfortunate that happened. Again, I wasn't there, but I've heard about this. And all I want to say is that that's a good question. And I can understand like your concerns and skepticism about that. But all I will say is, to leadership, you got to address those things. And this does happen. And I want to make this clear to everybody. It happens in multiple groups. I've seen it happen at the workplace. It happens in the Democratic Party. It happens in the Republican Party. I've seen it happen when I'm at school. It happens. And even though it is uncomfortable and it is difficult to talk about, what I think can be worse is if you don't discuss it, because then that makes people think that you don't care. So this is not me trying to like hate on MPP. I'm just saying like this does come up. I've seen this come up in other groups as well. And I think the best way to deal with it at this point is to address it, make some apologies, and move forward. What's your take on that, Rob?
I think you nailed it. And if I were MPP, the simple solution is just to come out with a public statement and say that we absolutely do not condone this hate speech. That's not what we're about whatsoever. If it's being linked to us, we apologize for that, but it's not in our base values to use speech like that. So please don't take your faith out of what we're trying to do with this party simply because of these select incidents. And I would just leave it at that. And the more distance you put between the incidents and, current time, people will forgive you. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it. We as humanists on the left, that speech cannot be tolerated.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much, Misanthropic and Otta Coffee, for the super chat. They said thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, we gotta, like I said, it's not easy conversations to have, but we gotta be able to have these conversations and and move forward. There's a clip here of Jink Uger. I'm sorry, guys, but this is relevant to what we were just talking about. I know people are going to be like, damn it, Sabrina.
No, they won't. I'm going to make jokes about him. They'll love it.
So Nina Turner was on TYT, and I do want to just play this clip here really quick. Because Jink did ask her about, her experience like running for Congress. So I am going to share this really quick. Don't hate me, guys. But I want to get your take on this too, as well, Rob. Let me pull this up, share audio. And I'm just going to mute my mic because we all know how that goes when I don't do that.
About a little bit in this context where it's a little bit more relaxed. Like, there's 13 people in the race. And then in the beginning, nobody even knew who the establishment was going to pick. Everybody knew Nina because she was a state senator.
That's right.
And she was campaign co-chair, obviously, for Bernie Sanders, and not beloved by the establishment. Let's keep it real.
Not at all.
No, apparently not. They showed how unbeloved you were to the tune of millions of dollars.
They could have just called me up and told me, but instead, they spent millions of dollars.
Yeah, instead they called up lobbyists.
Yeah, they did. A whole lot of them.
To show you how much they didn't like you. Yeah. But in the beginning, I didn't know who was going to emerge as the establishment candidate because there were, generally speaking, a lot of folks who had a little bit of experience in politics in Ohio, but not much. So it felt like they were kind of picking out of a hat. Did you know that the main competitor was going to be Chantel in the beginning?
I kind of got the cues that it was going to be. I mean, there were people running like Senator Shirley Smith that I served in the Senate with, Senator Jeff Johnson. I was a fellow when he was, in the Senate. There was a rep running. So there were some people with a lot of political acumen, if you will. We had a young brother running who always reminded us that he was the youngest person running in the race. And he actually had a lot of heart, Tariq Shabazz. So, but I started to hear through the grapevine who the chosen establishment candidate was going to be. And then the rest is history, as we say.
Yeah, and
the reason why I wanted to play that clip is I want you guys to pay close attention to what she just said, that she started to hear who the chosen establishment candidate was going to be. Your take on that, Rob?
Yeah, that's interesting, but not at all surprising. They basically are going to, in that race, run as many as they can, see who polls high at the beginning, and then try to coalesce around them, which is essentially what they did. They didn't have any plan to run anyone in particular. They did the same thing in the Democratic primaries, and the ones that rose to the top happened to be Pete Buttigieg. Amy Klobuchar outperformed. Joe Biden underperformed, Kamala Harris underperformed, and they just kind of go with whoever seems to be doing well in the middle of the race. But my other comment is just leave it up to Cenk Uygur to ask the tough questions, right? Like who did you think was going to be your opponent? I had you on my show to ask you this very important question about your campaign. Who did you think was going to be your opponent? Go. It's just, that's so indicative of the hard-hitting news that they do at TYT.
It's just funny. Like, I used to interview candidates, you guys, like when I first started, and I never asked anybody that question.
It's the silliest thing. It might be a good question to just simply ask, what do you think went wrong? What do you think you could have done better? What do you think you did well? Let's have a discussion. But it's just, they're so silly over there. They just write softball questions. A lot of these shows, their their existence is predicated and was built on the squad is good, democratic reformation is possible. So they've hitched their wagon to that idea. So for Nina to crash and burn the way that she has, it puts them in a very tough situation where they have to either admit, okay, we were wrong. This strat is not working, even though we've been trying it for the last 6 or 7 or however many years since Justice Democrats came into existence. We were wrong. Let's try something else. But no, they don't. They double down on a failed experiment. And that's why they have Nina Turner on and ask her softball questions, and they try to pump her up as much as possible. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to pump up Nina. I did that plenty on my own show, but I was also very critical of missteps that she made along the way. So I wasn't surprised when she lost, and I'm objective enough, and all of us on the left, I think, are in some ways, they would agree with me. This is a failed experiment, so let's not double down and triple down and keep trying this insanity and explore other things. So, I mean, third-party candidacy is one of those. A kamikaze campaigns, like I said, if you insist on running through the Democratic Party, the current Justice Democrats model of like cozying up slightly more center than like the squad, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. But I think that honestly, the answer lies outside electoral politics. And if we're going to stay in electoral politics at all, most of our efforts should be towards building a third party. And without going down the rabbit hole too much, I think it would behove a third party run by Nina Turner. That would help us a lot at getting the numbers that we need. Do what kind of like Ralph Nader did, which is he didn't intend on winning. He wanted to pull 15 to 20 million people away from the Democratic Party in such a way that it was a leverage point. It was a bargaining chip. If you have that many voters that are saying, I'm going to vote for Nina Turner running Green Party or People's Party or whatever, and you know that those people aren't going to go anywhere unless the Democratic Party gives the Green Party some concessions, then you might be able to get them to actually move left. Now, I'm not sure that's actually possible because the Democrats, I'm not even sure they want to win. I think nothing more. It would make them very happy to lose the midterms in 2022 so that they have Republican scapegoats to blame for when they get nothing done between 22 and 24. But if you insist on doing electoral politics, the idea has to be run somebody like Nina or Cornel West would be a great person to run, I think, that has the name recognition, the correct rhetoric to run and possibly put a third party on the map. You would need 5% to get them on the debate stage and to get them funding. And that has to be the play. Run without the intention of winning. Play spoiler. Wear that like a badge of honor because the Democratic Party is going to cheat you if you run in their party anyway. Run spoiler. And then maybe we get a third party on the map. But it's a decades long project. So I think that mutual aid really has to be our current focus. The Democratic Party, as Kashama Sawant so eloquently said, if you're a progressive running through the Democratic Party, it just leads to a graveyard.
Absolutely. Shout out to Thomas for the super chat. Do you think accepting dark money is an indication that the squad or their popularity is waning among grassroots supporters? Yes.
I agree.
It's going to. I was talking about this on Convo Couch just the other day that like I felt like I lost my excitement. I lost my enthusiasm for progressive candidates after Force the Vote, and especially after the squad decided to, fund the Capitol Police more. They voted as a block for that, by the way.
Yeah.
So I don't have that same excitement and that same like enthusiasm that I did. I'm just as skeptical of them now that I was of corporate Democrats, like when they were run. Like I don't trust any of them now. Whether you're establishment, whether you're grassroots, I just don't. And that's unfortunate because I know some people are running right now and they really have, a lot of hope and they really want to make change and they want to do the right thing. And it's unfortunate because I felt like the squad killed that for me.
Yeah, for me as well. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people that are, have a head on their shoulders on the left are realizing the same thing. And it's really a letdown. And if I may use another sports metaphor, it really feels like we got like a number 1 overall draft pick that turned out to be a bust. And we just don't know what to do with our franchise now, because we were really counting on building a movement around these franchise players. But this is an experiment we've run, and now we can see the results of it. What are there? There's like, depending on who you consider to be a Justice Democrat or part of the squad, there's like between 7 and 13 of them in there. That's plenty numbers to get things done if they wanted to. The problem is their effort and their stratagem. And you're exactly right. On the Capitol Police budget, they voted perfectly to allow that to pass by 1 vote. They also did the same thing with $735 million to Israel, did the exact same thing. They also did the same thing with the $3.3 billion yearly to go to Israel. They voted in such a way that was exactly correct for them to pass that. And so I don't see them actually shooting anything down. The best that they do is they kind of put on this kabuki theater where they kind of rotate who's voting yes and voting no, to rotate who's taking blame for allowing things to pass. And if I may, I've called this rotating hero theory. Glenn Greenwald uses the rotating villain theory, but this is rotating hero theory, where they'll alternate who votes no on really bad stuff. And so the left will go, oh, great, those people actually are voting correct on this bill. But then the next bill comes up and the people that voted no will vote yes, and then it'll vice versa. So it's just like, it makes the appearance that occasionally the squad will vote correct and occasionally they won't. But all the smart people on the left are going, if they really cared, they just vote together as a block and stop doing this, because I'm not giving partial credit. If you guys voted no on the Capitol Police budget, but it still passes because you guys can't unite, I consider you guys, if you're going to call yourselves the squad, you better start voting like it. And I'm not giving you credit for voting correct on something that is going to pass anyway. So it's all theater. And I think you're exactly right when you say the squad going in there and acting the way that they did was like the best way possible to diffuse enthusiasm for that type of stratagem going forward. But since we've run the experiments, now we can have a revelation and say, no, this isn't going to work. The writing's on the wall. We've tried it 10, 12, 13 times. It's not working. So what are our other options? And I think, third party, running with somebody, like I said, that has huge name value and has the right, credentials, and the speaking chops helps. Like Nina Turner's a very good speaker. Same thing with Cornel West. If you were to run some people like that or run them together for a third party, you're not going to win, but you might be able to put the third party on the map. And that, I think, is at least a more viable experiment to run. And if that doesn't work, then it has to be 100% mutual aid, and we just check out of the electoral system and just start working on our communities.
Agreed. Yeah. So Eric Thomas said, so what do we do about this mess? Yeah, Eric, I agree basically with what Rob said. Like, if you're going to do third party, it has to be someone that is huge. It can't be someone that's like sort of known. Like, it has to be someone that is very, very well known, someone that is really well respected, someone that leftists feel that leftists, independents, and non-voters is key, because remember, that's how AOC won. She brought out the non-voters. She knocked on doors of non-voters that Crowley would never have gone to visit. So it has to be someone that can appeal to all those people. And if you can really get the non-voters to come out and vote for you, to vote third party, then you really, really have a shot. Someone mentioned Jesse Ventura in the chat.
I've mentioned him before on my show. He was one of the top 3 or 4. I said, and I don't agree with him as much on his rhetoric, although I probably 80% I agree with him on. But the thing is, there's this weird thing happening in America right now where we're seeing, like, Donald Trump became president. Matthew McConaughey was polling higher than Greg Abbott for the Texas gubernatorial race when he was teasing. So we're seeing it, and I don't know why it's happening, but we're seeing a lot of celebrities able to, like, have this enormous amount of leg up when it comes to running for office, simply because people know who they are. And the other thing, Americans tend to lean towards kind of these, manly, people. So Jesse Ventura, he's a movie star. He's got more or less the correct rhetoric. He would have an enormous leg up if he were to run Green Party. And I think that would be great, because I think that people like that might just be able to get us over that threshold to be included in the debates and secure the funding. And that should be the goal. The goal should just be that, just to get third party, whether it's Green or People's Party or whatever, on the map. And I may add, I think it's the For the People's Act right now, that has a poison pill in it for third parties that changes the threshold from 5% to 15% in national polls to be on the debate stage. If they pass that before we have a chance to run a third party candidate, I would almost say abandon third parties, because that threshold is almost impossible.
Yeah. Nick, or Socialist MMA, you guys know him as Nick, was just saying, I miss Jill Stein, because
I voted for her.
Yeah, Jill Stein at one point had 7%, you guys. And I know that may not sound like a lot, but for third party, that's huge.
Yeah, it was big.
Yeah. And then they started to smear. You know how that goes.
Because she was a great candidate.
Yeah, she was just like awesome. Valerie said, "Oh God, I wish Matthew would come in and beat the hell out of Abbott."
Greg Abbott is such a bad governor that Matthew McConaughey, who has no experience in politics whatsoever, and if you've heard him talk about like running for governor, he doesn't sound like he has any good ideas whatsoever. He still might be a better governor than Greg Abbott.
Absolutely. I was gonna say another thing too about him, like Matthew McConaughey. He's like, even though he's a celebrity, if you ever hear him like when he's like talking, when he's interviewed on someone's show, he just sounds so chill and down to earth and relatable. You know, like I think people can gravitate towards that.
And that's I think where politics is going, which is why I think Jesse Ventura or Cornel West would be fantastic running for a third party, because people they have this charisma in a way that people gravitate to them. Even to some extent, even though I think he's vile, Trump has this type of like, he had, at least rhetorically, some sort of like this, self-made man who uses simple words without a lot of syllables, which a lot of people tended to like. And I've talked to Republicans that basically voted for him simply because he spoke in a way that wasn't political sounding. So it's simple as that. So I think that it would be, we should utilize that kind of weird phenomenon that's happening in this country right now and try to use it to get a third party on the map. I'm not sure if it'll work, but that's the only way I see it happening. If you run somebody like Howie Hawkins again, which I love, Howie has all the right, he has all the right ideas, but he doesn't have that kind of that it factor, that charisma I'm talking about that you kind of need to have people gravitate to you and want to listen to you speak. And these other people I've mentioned are very much in that vein, I think. And it comes down, I think it's Cornel West, Nina Turner, Jesse Ventura. I don't think Ralph Nader would do it again. And even he doesn't have quite the charisma I'm looking for, but Ralph did pretty well back in the day. It almost worked. So, I mean, and here's the thing, if the For the People's Act passes first, I'm not even sure it'll work. And then if that's the case, then we really have to just kind of abandon the electoral politics realm entirely.
Yeah, Nick, I see you commenting. Nick, let me know if you want to pop on here. I have to send you the link. Sometime Nick does that, Rob. Just letting you know.
Oh, I would love nothing more.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I think like we need somebody who really can speak to the people. Like you were saying, like Cornel West, like he really knows how to speak to the people, and people love Cornel West. I'm trying to see if I can get what does that mean, Nick? Nick said, I'm sorry. He said bet. Oh wait, I know what that means. Sorry, Rob. I'll send it to you in it's in the Twitter chat. Go to the FHL Twitter chat group. And I'm sorry I'm announcing this to everybody on the stream, but everybody's like, what the hell? If you go to the FHL Twitter chat group, it's towards the bottom and you just click on that. Let me know. All right. Anyway, I reached out to Ralph Nader yesterday. It would be great to have him come on because he was saying that he tried. Damn, that was fast. What's
Oh wait, I didn't grab my mic either. You know I gotta jump on Sabby. I had a good time. I had a good time talking to the Vanguard people. So let me set my mic up.
okay?
Let me throw this together. I just got done eating, so I was like, this would be fun. I don't know. I jumped last like 10, 15 minutes. But actually good to actually start having the conversation. Robert, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah, that's me. Pleasure to meet you, man.
Conversation. Can you guys hear me? I'll just stand up my mic. Hold
Yep.
up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Anyway, always good to be on Sabby's show. What was I saying in the chat? Oh yeah. Because you mentioned Trump and third party. This is what the last thing I said in the chat. While I said that Trump actually used the leverage of third party to the threat of third parties to increase his leverage with the Republican Party, which was really smart. Because I honestly believe if he didn't do that, they would have stolen it from him. If Trump did the same thing that the cuck Bernie Sanders did, where he was like, oh, it don't matter what if you guys do an election. I don't care if you guys steal the election from me. I'm still going to vote Democrat. Like as soon as he said that, the establishment was like, bet, okay, let's do everything we can to jeopardize your movement. But Trump was like, bro, he straight up say like, yo, if y'all do anything shady during this Republican primary, I'm running third party. I will tank your chances to get Hillary Clinton. And that scared the Republican establishment to death. Why didn't Bernie do that? Like, you don't have to do it. Just say, hey, if I see anything unfair in this election, I may run as an independent. That's all it would have took. That's all it would have took. But he didn't have it. That was the last thing I was saying in the comment. That's why I add. I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, so Nick meet Rob, Rob meet Nick.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I see a few of your shows. It's pretty good stuff. So it's good to meet you, brother.
Yeah, you as well. I watch almost everything you guys put out. And congratulations. You guys are just absolutely flying right now. I think you're at about 8.6 thousand. That's huge.
Yeah, we can hit 10,000. That would be pretty crazy. Because I remember at the beginning of the month, I set the goal of hitting 8,000. Because like it's just been a pretty crazy month for us at Fred had the leftist. Now we like might well push it, might well keep going, but we were only able to grow because comrades like you, comrades like the Vanguard, I was talking to them. Because it's a community where we need to fight corporate propaganda, and this is what I was playing on the Vanguard. Corporate media propaganda is our number one threat to the left movement right now because they can shut out our movement, they can destroy our campaigns. So if you're not actually challenging corporate media, you are not getting anything done in terms of a left movement. So we need to build up independent media. We need to prop each other up. We can't be like the old left where they have egos, where they want to compete, who had the most ratings, who had the most views. Like that's what the old left used to do. And I'm happy to say there's almost no more of that in terms of the new left. Like a lot of us trying to prop each other up. So that's kind of the thesis about our friend the left. That's why we want to give the voices of many people as possible. I think it's important as a left movement because they want to talk about revolution. Like, oh, we're gonna have a revolution. How are you gonna have a revolution if you can't counteract corporate propaganda? Like, that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen because they can just black you out. But yeah. So anyway, good to meet Rob.
You too, man. And that's like, really. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, Rob's probably like, wow, I was not expecting this.
No, I'm super excited. And in fact, that's the way that that's part of the reason I started Political Fight Club and why I try to convince other people to go out and do your own show, even if it's something you're just doing from your basement, because we really do need to add more to this network. And we really do need to work together. And what I do on my show is I go even further where I will pump you guys. I'll pump anybody who's doing good work. But if you watch my show, I also will go out and devastate people who are doing bad work. And I have no qualms going out there and equalizing these people. Yeah, and I don't attack them personally, but when people come out and they want to, and this person shall remain nameless right now, but if they want to have some of the Fred Hampton leftists on their show and attempt to sheepdog them into a party that doesn't give a damn about black people and then cuts them off in the middle of their live stream, you're going to hear from me. I'm not going to allow that anymore. That's not.
Yeah,
that's the old way.
Yeah, we appreciate the solidarity. That's legit stuff, and there are lessons that was learned from many people.
Yes.
Mistakes was made, lessons was learned. But that's exactly the same approach I have, Rob, because I usually don't get into the drama. But if you're wrong on the issue, Sorry, I got called out because my thing is foreign policy. Like recently, we had a video. We had like 2 videos where it's like I'm not trying to start beef with Vosh, but it's like, bro, your imperialist takes is so bad. So I was like, and I literally was saying in the video, I was like, bro, it's not about drama. Like this is about issues because you just feeding people misinformation when you're saying the Afghanistan war is cheap. Like, so I'm like, can't let that go with you having a giant platform. So I know exactly what you mean. So to me, it's not about drama. It's about the issues. And there's some people that they just wanted to be about drama. They wanted to be about character. And I even had disagreement with my friend Jordan. Like, and I'm not even mad at him, but it's like it's about drama. It's not about drama, about the issues. And I think he didn't unfollow me on this stuff, but I think the left need to do that. Like we need to be able to have these disagreements. Now, some of these people not on the left, but I like Jordan, even though I think he has. I disagree with some of his takes, but I still think Status Quo does good work. Some of these people just need to get slapped around because they're feeding people bad information, and that's just to be honest. So I think it's very important to call these people out.
Yeah,
I just want to give a quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to give a quick shout out to Matt. Thanks so much for the super chat, Matt. Matt said, join your local Green Party and start organizing mutual aid in your neighborhoods. Thanks so much, Matt.
Yeah, and as far as the leftist infighting, I don't see any leftist infighting. I see it as us evolving past Democratic Party reformers, and I take it kind of personally when there's a lot of people that are, being allowed to get kicked out of their homes by the Democratic Party, when there's still a COVID pandemic that's allowing thousands of people to die every single day, and Joe Biden's reaction to COVID has been very much similar to what Trump did and what Trump would have done. So I don't see leftist infighting so much as I see us kind of evolving past the people who pretended up until now to be actual progressives. But now that the Democratic Party has taken over and the rubber's meeting the road and the squad is not doing what they're supposed to do, if we have to fight those people, the only reason they're saying we're being unreasonable or divisive is because we're saying, no. This is what you guys purported to be for, but you're not living up to it. And you guys aren't actually helping us. If anything, they're kind of neutralizing the momentum that's actually on the left by doing the things that they're doing. And I can't have that. So I don't really see it as much infighting so much as the leftists kind of figuring out who the wolves in sheep's clothing are, if you will.
Yep.
That's well said. And I said it before. I think we underestimated how big the left movement was in America because of the Bernie Sanders campaign. And the Bernie Sanders campaign was giant, and it did a great job radicalizing a lot of people like myself. But we made a miscalculation because there are some Democrats. There are some more liberal-minded people that are like, yeah, I think Medicare for all is a good idea. They were like, yeah, I want to increase the minimum wage. Yeah, maybe we should cancel student loan debt. But they're not really about solidarity. They're not really about fighting state violence. They're not really about calling out U.S. imperialism, which Bernie Sanders and the squad has been, like, there's no doubt in my mind they've been weak on that. Like, that's not. So if you're upset at people who criticize Bernie, AOC, and the squad on U.S. imperialism and on state violence, that when you get mad at us for that criticism, that's you telling me that you don't care about that issue. And it's easy for a lot of these privileged people to have that out of mind. Like my friend the sister Finney says, a lot of white managerial privileged white people don't have encounters with the police, for example. So when the squad is complicit with funding the police state more, that's not a big deal for them because, hey, that's not going to affect my community. That's the anti-solidarity nonsense that I'm kind of done with. It's either you stand with my community or I'm not standing with you. Now, I thought the Justice Democrats was going to be something completely different, but it wasn't. And I apologize if I got that wrong. But if it's the squad and Bernie and what they're doing right now, if this is what it's about, you can count me out because that's not what I signed up for. I signed up for a movement that was wanting to challenge the Democratic Party establishment. Remember when Bernie said that? He said that when he was running, but he didn't mean it because all they do is criticize Republicans. So that's the movement I signed up for, but they're not delivering on that, right?
Yep. I want to give a shout out to JB for the super chat. Would you say that I'm going to ask this question and then I'm going to share my screen for the general strike because that's the last story. I just want to give everybody an update on that. But JB said, would you say that the left is cleansing itself?
Whew. That's a great way to put it. My man JB show on Sunday. Check that out. But that's the perfect way to put it. And a lot of people that are being cleansed, a lot of people that are being exposed, these are the people who don't want don't want to have these conversations. They are the people who decry leftist infight, and they're like, "Oh my God, Fred and leftists. Oh my God, Sabby. Oh my God, Robert. They're so divisive." We're not divisive. We are just calling you out for your nonsense. You can't handle that, right?
And how are we supposed to talk to you guys when there are plenty of people who are literally dying daily because of the lack of effort and the lack of strategy on behalf of like the Squad and these other networks that prop up the Squad? People are dying, man. Like a lot of these people, the reason that they don't want to fight is because they're plenty fine with the status quo and they're very comfortable to where they are right now. They have health insurance. They don't have to worry about getting evicted from their homes. They're totally fine with the way things are. So they put out this faux rhetoric that brings them in viewers because they're giving off the facade that they're somewhat progressive. But really what it comes down to is these people have a lot of money. They're comfortable. So they don't really want to fight the way we want to fight. And I'm perfectly happy calling those people out because as James Baldwin said, how long does this progress take? It's taken my uncle's time and my father's time and my time. How long do you need? And I'm not willing to wait until my daughter's, my age for us to have health care. I don't want to go on a plan that gets us Medicare for all by 2050. Or climate change legislation that is far too inept and is far too far in the future to actually affect change. So you're damn right. If I'm gonna go after these people. I have no qualms fighting in a way that makes me look like I'm maybe a jackass to somebody or maybe an asshole to somebody. I don't care. I need these things done now, and it's the people like you guys that are going to really affect change. And that's, I think, also, by the way, why I think you guys do so well in your numbers, if I may say so. I think that's why you become so popular is there was a vacuum left over after Bernie Sanders dropped out of a whole bunch of leftists who really expected there to be a political revolution. They feel somewhat homeless now, and they aren't picking up what these these more centrist networks are laying down, which is why your guys' ratios and your views to your subs is extremely high. I think this is a kind of a paradigm shift in the way that we do media on the left. And that's why I think what you guys are doing on the Fred Hampton Leftist is amazing. That's what I'm trying to perpetuate with Political Fight Club and convincing other people to get on here and start screaming into a mic.
Yeah, I want to share my screen for the general strike really quick. This is going to be short, but I do want to give people an update. And Rob, let me know if I'm going over your time, because I don't think I told you, gave you a time length or whatever.
No, I'm okay.
I'm terrible on Fridays. Fridays, like, people who watch me on Fridays, they know, like, on Friday, anything could kind of happen because it's the end of the week for me. And I'm just like, I'm just like, I want to like rant to you guys, and I'm going to have like a beer while I talk to you guys. So I do want to give you an update on that national general strike for October 15th. They did update their website. Now, Jackie and I did an episode about this when we first heard about this a couple weeks back. And I do want to let you guys know that it does look like back then on the website, they said it'll start on October 15th and then we'll continue, as long as needed. Now it does look like it's a one-day strike, which is exactly what me and Jackie said should not happen, because that's not going to bring about significant change, because Amazon can withstand that. Walmart can withstand that. But I'm going to get Nick and Rob's opinions about that. But for those of you who missed it, I do want to tell you what their goals are. Here are their goals: a 25% corporate tax rate, no loopholes, free healthcare for all. I think they need to really define what that means. That could be different things. Single payer, universal healthcare, Medicare for all, just break that down. 12 weeks of paid paternity and maternity leave. $20 minimum wage. I think that should be higher. 4-day work week. Stricter environmental regulations on corporations. Bans on single-use and microplastics and limited emissions. So what they're asking people to do is to abstain from working on October 14th and do not participate in any economic activity on October 15th, and to spread the word. Now, I'm going to pop out for a minute because I do want to hear from you guys. What do you think about that, knowing that this is not, I'm all for this, but it has to be longer than 1 day. And what do you guys think about the goals as well?
So, all right. So, I would love for this to be successful. And I'm still not 100% sure. Maybe you can add this, Sabby, if you know, but I'm not even 100% sure who is running the general strike. But my position has always been that any direct action is good to spur the momentum we need for change. So what a lot of the boutique left, and this is what they did during Force to Vote. This is what they did during the March of America for All. One of the CIA tactics that they use is they want people to advise caution. They want people to go through the proper channels. They want people, oh, you can't do that because they want to slow down the movement. And that's the absolute last thing that I want to do here because that's an effective CIA trick in order to stop the working class movements. So instead of doing that, I want people to reach out to these people to see what we can do to sustain it longer. Or maybe we can even have a direct action that day with the intention of spreading awareness on future general strikes. Because what the people who want us to calm down and slow down, they say, oh, general strikes are hard. You need all your duck in a row. So my response to that is, okay, let's get our ducks in a row. So we looking at this organization, they have a lot of flaws and they need a lot of help. Let's help them instead of just being an armchair quarterback. Like, that was what the people was doing with the America Fraud Marches. They was just sitting back and criticizing it instead of actually throwing their hat in and helping the organization out. So I don't want to do that, but these are very significant issues that you brought up here. But anyway, I want to pass it to Rob and get his thoughts before I continue.
Yeah, it's by it says Strike October.
Like I said, maybe people know more, something I don't, and maybe you have more information. But if a lot of people don't know who's doing this, that's not going to be really effective. And that's why we often call, and this is what CJ's point that a lot of people misunderstood when he said we need Bernie and AOC to support a general strike. He's not saying that the politicians are the tool in order to enact a general strike, but how do you defeat the mainstream media corporate blackout of this event? Because every time there is an organization in direct action, the corporate media bounce together and blacks out the event so people don't hear about it. That's why the America Fraud Marches was mostly blacked out. So what is our plan to actually get the message out there? Now, if we had someone as popular as Bernie Sanders and AOC that was blasting this out to get awareness, that would be very, very effective. The problem is this really going to break that blackout that I 100% expect? I don't see that happening, but I would love to brainstorm ideas to make that possible. And even if it fail, how we can move forward to make a successful general strike soon, because there's no doubt that we need it. And I see a lot of people that kind of speak out against general strike. They seem like they don't want it. You know what I mean? You guys see that energy? It just seems like they just don't want a general strike. So to me, there's no question that we need one. We just got a game plan and see how we can do it in an effective way. But I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Mr. Thanks so much for the super chat. Just got back from vacation and disengaged from tech. First show I watched was one of my fellow leftists. Great show, Sabby and Co. Thank you so much. And shout out to Alice Hamers, who's a Sabby's member. Sabrina and a few others are talking about organizing. That's what people are looking for, as well as analysis. But yes, things like general strike for peace, for justice. Agreed, Sabby. 1 day won't do. Rob, what's your take on this?
Well, I agree with you guys. Absolutely. It needs to be longer. And as to what Nick was talking about, I have an idea, and it's partially something we're already doing. The answer is we need to grow our network right now, get more people to do stuff online and give the news. But I think the new breed of lefty YouTubers and people that are giving you the news are sort of they're like activists who put their work online. So what I would like all of us to do, if we could, is keep continuing growing our fan bases and the people that follow us. And eventually what will happen is we'll have enough subs and viewers between all of us, and we'll all be kind of like these tiny little celebrities that are peppered throughout the nation that are not just YouTubers and people that give the news, but also local organizers that say, listen, here's the deal. I'm going to meet you guys on the general strike day at this park, and I'm going to give a speech and meet everybody, and I'm going to stand in solidarity with everybody. And we use our network and the people that are an enormous amount of subs between all of us to get this to stick. But of course, we're too small right now, but that won't always be the case. Eventually, we're going to have enough people tuning in that if we decide and make the like kind of an unspoken agreement that we're going to be activists and YouTubers and we continue to grow our subs, eventually we'll be like this organizing apparatus that also gives you the news in an entertaining way. And if we're all talking to each other, eventually what we can do is we can get a more sustained general strike or any type of other protest that we want. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution as for like competing with the mainstream media blackouts now. But again, you guys are very popular. Our stuff is growing. Eventually, we will have the numbers to get people to actually go to these events. And if they know that, you know, Nick from the Fred Hampton Leftists or JB or Sabby is going to be there on the general strike day to give a speech and rally with the people, a lot of people are going to make sure they take the day off and come and stand in solidarity with us. So in a way, I think it comes down to us like expanding as best we can our sub base and working together behind the scenes in a sort of like independent news network that is sort of doesn't have any centralized leadership, but we all agree that we're also going to do a ton of activism and promote that activism on our shows. That I think eventually could be an apparatus that could get some of these things to really stick. And this is why I always, everything like from the McDonald's strikes on the 15th or the Amazon strikes, I cover all of that on my show as soon as I possibly can and try to convince people, stand in solidarity with these people, don't buy from Amazon, walk off the job at McDonald's if you have to, and don't go back. And if we get enough people to do that and we grow the independent news network that we've already kind of started, we might be able to tip the scales.
I agree. Rob, you have some really good ideas. I'm going to hit up some of these super chats really quick. Matt, thanks so much for the super chat. A general strike isn't a one-day thing. This organization is flawed to the core. No strike fund or mutual aid set up. They should get attention for this. And then also thank you to Steve for the super chat. Sadly, I don't think Americans are ready for a general strike. Specifically targeted boycotts might work. Frito-Lay, Nabisco, for example. And I'll show you guys exactly what he's talking about here, because if I click on contact, like, who am I contacting, dude? I like for Twitter, I see strike October. If I go to email, the email that it takes me to just says October 15th at Gmail. But who is doing this? I still haven't figured that out. So, Nick, what's your take?
What Rob was saying was 100% on point. And I actually had this conversation with Rome and CJ before, and how we view ourselves on Fred Hampton Leftists. I know we have a YouTube show, but I am a citizen journalist. I am an activist who don't have a lot of resources to go around and travel and do a lot of this activism stuff that I wanted to do and what I used to do. But we are doing everything we can right now to spread our awareness. But as we grow at Fred Hampton Leftists, we really gonna be about that life. Like we had like dreams of grandeur, but we really want to be out there highlighting strikes, helping organize general strikes. So I don't know, Sabby, if you saw the show that me and CJ did on Wednesday, but I really like CJ's idea because I think that's something that this kind of what Robert just alluded to. Like we're floating the idea, and we will talk about it more in detail. Having like a 12-hour general strike marathon. Yep. And the goal of this is, I don't know if you talk about this on the show because I missed it like the very beginning, but like the idea is that we just sit down and talk about this. And I would love to have people like Chris Hedges on, like Dr. Richard Wolf was also a strong advocate of having a general strike. So let's bounce some ideas because people say, yeah, it's hard to start a general strike. It needs a lot of work. So we need to start a foundation. So what you were saying, Robert, is so on point because once we build this media apparatus, we'll be able to do stuff like that. Like, can you imagine we had all the names who were calling for a general strike? Like even people like Jimmy Dore, like he can bring the views. Like Jimmy Dore been calling for a general strike. Maybe we can have also like professionals, like union people that can actually jump on and explain because it's gonna be a long stream. So like we get a lot of ideas down, we mobilize enthusiasm for that, and this is actually something that the new left need to take on head on. That's why I love the idea by CJ. And you're not seeing the old guard do that. And that what Chris Hedges called out so accurately when he was calling out how you got a lot of these boutique leftists and they engage in boutique activism. You notice that like the TYT, the Majority Reports, all these like privileged, air-conditioned leftists, they all against the general strike because they don't want to get uncomfortable. So we need to leave those people behind and start building this movement from the bottom up. So I think that's something that has to happen right now, because the question is not should we do a general strike. We have to do a general strike. It's just how are we going to do a general strike? And I'm down for the challenge. Just like anyone who's not, you're not being as serious. So
Eric said Yellow Vest Town Hall.
I love that name. I love that name, actually. That's a powerful name, unless we think something else. But that's like a leader for me. But go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I agree 100%. And to some extent, eventually in the future, once we get enough people that kind of follow us on these, however many channels come up that agree with what we need to do. Nick, you actually gave me this idea when you were, you were on your show a couple of days ago. Eventually, I had this idea that we could use the idea of building communes in small to medium-sized towns in a way to literally eliminate homelessness without having to go through electoral politics at all. So this would require us to figure out a way to get pieces of land that we could put earth ships on. If you ever heard of earth ships, they're like these, recycled homes that are indestructible. They're weatherproof. They don't cost a lot. You can build them yourself and set them up in a way that is inviting all the homeless people in that town to come and work on the commune in exchange for food and shelter and all that stuff. And if we were to get enough of these things set up, and we ourselves are willing to go out and help actually put these things together and build these things and put videos of us building these things, building these communities on our shows, it's kind of like a Field of Dreams thing. Like, if you build it, they will come. And what we would do is, if we were to pull off something like that, way in the future, we would eliminate homelessness without having to ask anything of our politicians. So, but the thing is, we just don't have the numbers yet, but we will get there. It's just a matter of, trying to rally the troops around ideas that are outside of our electoral politics. But we could literally use the idea of not like the communism that everybody talks about. It's a, 4-letter word, but like literal communism where we build communes that in a high enough numbers could actually eliminate homelessness. Now, in large cities like LA, that's a huge undertaking. But if you start in small towns, show that it can work, you work your way up. And over time, what we could do is completely eliminate something like homelessness via a plan like that over the period of a decade or two that doesn't require us to coerce politicians at all.
Yeah, there's a couple I follow on Instagram, and they live off the grid, but I guess not completely because they use Instagram. But they showed the process of building their own house, and they were using like tires, like those really big tires that I can't lift. They were using those and like some kind of, I don't know what this stuff is called, as you can tell.
Yeah, that's earth ships.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and
they're made of all recyclable or all recycled products. And a lot of them, they teach you how to install solar cells on there, and they're self-sustaining in a way that, like, you collect rainwater, it gets filtered, and a lot of them have koi ponds in them. So it goes into the shower, and then after the shower is done, it goes into the koi pond, becomes fertilized with the fish poop, and then ends up going out into the garden. So these are very sustainable, not terribly expensive ways to live. The problem would be figuring out a way for, circumventing the man who in a lot of ways puts up roadblocks for types of these things like that, which is a conversation I'd love to have. I've got some ideas on that. I won't go down the rabbit hole too much, but I think the idea is sound. All that needs to happen is there needs to be enough of us that are willing to put the word out that we're doing it, film it, and then I think a lot of our subs and people that believe in what we're doing would just show up to help. And eventually, as it started to take hold, it would just gain momentum, and we would put a huge dent in homelessness just on this alone.
Yeah, I want to go to some of the comments real quick in the chat. Thanks so much, Roger, for the super chat. Regarding on giving up on electoral politics, we shouldn't make ballot initiatives and down ballot candidates pay the price for federal politicians effing up. Thanks so much for the super chat.
Can I chime in on that,
Roger?
Because I actually kind of agree, because I actually explained this when I was on the Vanguard. because there's been a lot of debate about how much energy we should put into electoral politics. Now, the left that I find to be like clowns, like they won't. I don't know if they would even admit it, but they legitimately think like 90% of our energy should go to electoral politics. I have always been consistent. Like I see you guys shaking your hand. Yeah, that's clown stuff, but they legitimately believe it. I don't know if they'll admit it, but they do. You can tell in how they engage themselves in politics. But my number is around 15%. And what you said in that super chat, the reason why I wanted to chime in was because direct ballot initiatives are one of the few things I actually do think we should do, because you don't need politicians. And I live in Missouri. I've seen the success of direct ballot initiatives. We just had a Medicaid expansion. You had a Republican governor that vetoed it. You had Republicans that are trying to block it, but then the Supreme Court came and said you can't do that. So we actually got a Medicaid expansion. We actually went past the politicians. So that's that part of 15%. Also talk about Casey Tennis with Quentin Lucas. Because Casey Tennis actually was engaged in electoral politics on the local level, and Quentin Lucas is our Casey mayor. So they use that as leverage in order to force them to give hotels to homeless people in Kansas City. So what they said, they're like, yo, we actually canvassed for you. We got you elected. So we promise you, if you do not at least give us a meeting, which they got, we will actually run against you. We don't care. So you see what they did? They engaged in electoral politics, and they decided to be mean. But sorry, I agree with that kind of 100%. But I pass it back to Sabby, and that's kind of my reasoning.
Yeah, I'm just going to shout out some of the super chats really quick. Thanks so much, Thomas. He said corporations can't function properly with high levels of uncertainty. Flash strikes that are often and many could be disruptive enough. Have two more to go to here further down. Thanks so much, Roger, for the super chat. Illinois has a 2022 ballot initiative to amend state constitution to protect union rights to collectively bargain. Check what BI's MA and MO are pushing. You're in Illinois, Rob. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm gonna make sure I get all the super chats. I'm gonna come back to you. Thanks so much for the super chat, Jay Rosales. I like the commune idea, similar to the Paris commune, but I feel the whole CHOP/Chaz in Seattle last year was a test, but state power destroyed it. Thanks so much for the super chat. And shout out to Misanthropic and Out of Coffee. Earth ships are so old. I remember them when new. They are way expensive to build. Very nice, though. They have to be to code. So they are expensive. And thanks so much to Virtual Jonathan for the super chat. In Worcester, a tiny homes community for released convicts is being undertaken. Nothing until 2023, but there are already applicants. So I want to ask you guys about that as well. What do you guys think about the tiny homes, the tiny home communities that are popping up everywhere? I followed some of these people like on YouTube that do like the whole tiny home thing. Do you think that could help as well? Or do you think that we need to, continue with more like the commune idea? Because some of these tiny homes can be affordable, but some of these tiny homes are expensive. Like, I'm like, you might as well just get a regular house.
Yeah, and I gotta look more into the tiny home thing, but my position, and there's a lot of people that are stuck years like behind. Like there's a lot of people that are stuck in like 2015 with the rhetoric. So why do I advocate for commune so much? Because I think our number one priority should be surviving late stage capitalist police state hellhole that we live in right now. We got millions of people that about to go homeless. We have the ruling class that continue to class war against us, and they are not going to relent. Like they literally about to let millions of people go homeless. And you think they're gonna relent? So my idea of the commune is because, like, bro, politicians are not gonna save us. So we need to escape this society ourselves and actually take care of each other. So that's why I love the idea. And then there's a lot of discussions about that's why I love the ideas that Rob brings to the table, because there's a lot of ideas of how we can actually implement this. But I honestly believe, and I'm not trying to be a doomer. People ask me what my solutions are. Because people always say, "Oh, you just complain, you don't got a solution." This is my solution. We need to provide for ourselves, and through communes, that's a good, great start. But I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I know that earthships are initially expensive, but once you learn to actually, because they send people out to help you with them the first time you build them, if you learn to do them on your own, they're not as expensive, especially if you know where to get like the tires that you need and the stuff that you need to build it. Now, and I have a solution as well for the zoning thing, because that is the way that they get in a way, like they make it that you have to be linked to like city water or city electricity, and they make it impossible to permit these things. So they stunt them in their right in the middle of them by doing stuff like that. I think that an interesting idea to avoid that, at least at first on a commune, is to install sort of like a dirt parking lot where people can come in, and if we could set up some sort of machine shop. If you guys ever seen like the movie Nomadland, where you can retrofit vans and SUVs so that you can actually live inside of them, what you could do is at first just drive a whole bunch of them on there, teach people to fix and retrofit their own vehicles to live inside. And you could actually circumvent the zoning issues in a lot of ways, because you don't actually have to hook those up to electricity in the same way you would a tiny home or an earthship. So in my mind, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but like since Nick put my mind onto this, I was thinking that at least at the beginning, a lot of it would have to be part campsite and part a place where you could come park your car so we can retrofit it and fix it so you could literally live inside your car safely to be out of the elements, and also teach the people to do that kind of maintenance on their own while we work on getting something like earthships and tiny homes permitted correctly and fight that fight. And it would be cheaper alternative at first as well. So imagine a commune that was like 1/3 people driving in with their vans, and we just give them a place to sleep. Because if you guys know, if you're poor and you are homeless and you live out of your van and you try to park in a Walmart parking lot, they just call the cops on you and you get chased away. What we could guarantee is people know we're a commune campsite that you're welcome to come and stay at, and we will make sure the cops don't get called on you. We'll have people making sure that you guys are safe while you're here, and that could be kind of a stopgap that helps us get through until the future, where we can figure out a way to actually get something like tiny homes or earthships or what have you permitted correctly, or find out ways around that. So there are things that we could do, and I would love to have a further conversation. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I mean, that's what I'm doing with this old Jeep Cherokee that I just found that's a piece of junk. I spent a couple $100 buying it, but what I'm doing is I'm piecemealing it together to turn it into something that I can go camping in, or I could live in if I had to. And if people had that option, if they're already living out of their car, where we could just say, no, you're welcome a parking spot where you're not going to be messed with overnight to come sleep. As long as you come and hang out and make sure you don't wreck the place and you're willing to do some work here or there, you're always welcome. And that's a way that we could circumvent it. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that we could do, but initially you're right. It is a little expensive to undergo an undertaking of like building all of these eco-sustainable homes out of recycled things and getting them correctly permitted. I know that that's probably going to be the case, especially at first. So we got to look into other things that'll kind of bridge the gap for us to get there. And that's something I've just been thinking about lately.
Yeah. Want to give a shout out to Josana for the super chat. How does it work with empty buildings in big cities in America? That's a good question, because I know I can tell you there were empty houses and buildings in Boston, and homeless people were at night. Homeless people would go and sleep in those buildings. And then because of gentrification, that's been torn down and they put condos like in that space. So the homeless people, they have nowhere to go at night now. But that's a good question. Nick or Rob, you guys have anything to say about that?
I don't have anything. I just want to say shout out to Josana. She joined me on the International Leftist Coalition panel on Fred Hampton Leftist. So make sure you guys check that video out. And I'm going to have her back on Fred Hampton Leftist. We got a lot of great conversations to have. So shout out to Josana.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I saw that one. I watched that.
Yeah, she was the Afro-Brazilian on the panel. Bring the heat. Big shout out to Josana.
Shout out to Harry Smith for the super chat. Who's heard of time banking? It's the solution. Community networks using 1 hour of labor as the unit of value, and everyone's time is valued equally. Put 1 hour in for someone, get 1 hour back from anyone. Harry, you're in Australia, right? I want to say you're abroad, because Harry always he educates us on here about, hey, why don't we just do this, what we're doing over here? Let's see. Oh, wait, there's another super chat. Sorry, I just went past one. Shout out for the super chat, Misanthropic and Out of Coffee. Alaska, no building codes. Communes are there. Prince of Wales Island has full infrastructure. USDA climate 6. You know, Alaska, a friend of mine was telling me before that like Alaska, if you're looking for a job that's going to pay well to move to Alaska or move to North Dakota. And I was like, I don't know if I could do with like the 6 months of darkness and the 6 months of daylight. You know, I don't know if I can get down with that. Also, gets really cold.
I'm terrified of Alaska, and I think it's kind of not warranted because I always had this phobia of like bear attacks, and I know they got bears everywhere in Alaska. So I admit that 100% probably unreasonable. But whenever I think of Alaska, like man, I'm not trying to get attacked by a bear. I'm a city slicker. Sorry guys. Back to you, Sabby.
Shout out to Jay Rosales for the super chat. Rob is talking about camper vans. Those are cool. Yeah, like have you guys seen like those people like on YouTube? They took their vans and they like kind of, you know, souped them up and they live in their vans, but it looks like a little house. This is the wave of the future. And shout out to Roger too. Sab, what happened? You were going to ask Rob about the Illinois ballot initiative. Oh yeah, sorry. About the Illinois ballot initiative to amend state constitution to protect union rights. Yes, I was. Rob, are you familiar with that?
I am not, and that's why I love watching your guys' shows because it gives me a lot of things to look up. And what I will do, I assure you, is I will look it up right after this, and I will do a show on it. Because I had no idea. I mean, that's one of those things that doesn't catch my radar unless somebody I know here tells me about it. Most of the stuff I find is for my show is like I catch it on Twitter or on one of your guys' shows and I research it myself. So I will look into that. That's wonderful. If they wanted to, if it's really like, you know, it prevents union busting, I will promote it like crazy here. That would be fantastic for the state. And I am, of course, I'm not entirely for abandoning trying to run people for city council or mayor. I am not for abandoning electoral politics entirely on that front because I don't think the game is quite as rigged. It's a little bit more winnable. As we've seen, India Walton is now a socialist mayor in Buffalo, New York. And Kashama Sawant is on the Seattle City Council, and they're doing great things. And Seattle's doing great things because she's there. So I think it would be great to continue running people on a local level. The game isn't quite as rigged in that vein. And as for the camper vans, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I literally, this Jeep Cherokee is a 1991. It's a big old rust bucket. And all I'm doing is taking the panels out, trying to turn it into something like what they're talking about that has, you can have a refrigerator, you can have, a gas stove, you can have a bed to sleep in that's comfortable. And, it doesn't work very well during the winter months in Illinois, so we'd have to figure out a way. But that's the nice thing about having wheels is that if we had communes like this with parking lots set up all over the country, we could just say, hey, listen, guys, you've been hanging out with us for the summer here in Illinois. It's going to get cold here pretty soon. We have a commune set up that we're in contact with down south. They'll be expecting you. Just commute down there and then come back up once it thaws here. And then vice versa, if it gets really unbearably hot during the summer in, Texas or Louisiana or Alabama, and you guys don't have air conditioning or a way to stay comfortable, just drive up north. We've got our, parking lots ready for you up here. And like I said, this isn't the be all end all. It's more like a stopgap for us to figure out the other stuff. Lastly, I have no idea in terms of buying abandoned hotels or warehouses in Peoria, Illinois, where I live here. There's nothing. Everything's got a for rent sign. All the buildings are basically abandoned. I would love to figure out a way to get one of them and figure out how to zone it like a homeless shelter, but then have the one difference between this homeless shelter and other homeless shelters be that you're actually having the people that stay there who happen to be homeless help maintain it. So it works like a commune in that way. And so they help, clean things up. They clean up after themselves. Maybe they help you cook meals or maintain a rooftop garden. Or if they have any mechanical experience, like, fixing the boiler or working with solar panels on the roof, it would operate very similar to a homeless shelter with the same or with the caveat that the people that happen to be taking refuge there also work and help maintain it. So, there's a bunch of different options. I'm not an expert on it. That's why I like talking to you guys, because you guys have solutions. Whereas a lot of these other lefty YouTubers that we're kind of leaving in the dust right now, they're very much about complaining about the current situation, but don't actually give us any tangible paths forward to actually get change.
Yeah, no solution. That's one of the things too. Like we talk about the problems. We like to talk about the problems, but we also like to talk about possible solutions and things that we can do ourselves instead of like relying on politicians and candidates and just electoral politics in general, like trying to do these things for us. Because as you notice, like Rob mentioned, like India Walton, even in Buffalo, New York, now because a socialist won, they're trying to decide whether or not they want to get rid of the mayor seat. This is how corrupt it can be. Like, you're just gonna get rid of the seat now? Oh my God, you're killing me. But socialists are winning on the local level.
And that it's gonna get even better as our generation that is strongly anti-capitalist continue to outnumber the older generation that has been so brainwashed they still continue to vote against your own interests. And what Rob mentioned was very interesting because in a lot of ways that's kind of worse what they do, where they will bring up all these problems. And a lot of these shows I don't like, I'm not going to say names this time. I already dropped a few of them. But a few of these shows, you will watch them and then they'll say like accurate stuff. Where they will say capitalism is the root of evil, the Democratic Party is corrupt, the Joe Biden's a war criminal, all this stuff. And then their solution is we gotta donate to Justice Democrats. So it's like, that's worse than not even offering a solution. That's beyond ridiculous. That was literally if you watch some of these shows I named, like they will sound lefty, but then their solution, that's where they always lose me. Like for real, like listen to these people. Oh, capitalism's bad. Oh, we need Medicare for all, but our power to give her just what? Anyway, I thought that was very interesting.
I just want to give a shout out to Frank for the super chat. We are the organizers of the general strike. Oh, where are the organizers of the general strike? 1 week or 3 months? Yeah. So from what I saw on their website recently, Frank, because they updated their website, now it looks like the strike is for 1 day. And I don't wait. We are the organizers. Frank, are you one of the organizers? I'm confused. I just want to make sure I got that right. Organizer for general strike for, I don't know, but the fact that like there wasn't a group like named for the general strike, I don't know, it just seems kind of weird to me. But I'm thinking that like, do you guys think maybe it's because they don't want to be known? Maybe they're afraid to tell people who they are because maybe they don't want their employers to know that they're doing this. Do you think that could be a possible reason?
Who knows? Like I wish we can ask them, right?
I know.
But I just don't. Like, I understand. Like that's a good point, Sabby, that you just brought up. But when I still weigh pros versus cons, I still think if you're actually going to be very serious about general strike, I think it's coming now. I think the cons outweigh the pros. And like just doing it when no one knows who you are is going to be hard to build a momentum. Well, at least harder than it should be. Anyway, that's the only thing I got to add to that.
Yeah. And I just want to update everybody, let you know, I just put the link to my Discord group in the chat. Sometimes a lot of times I forget to tell people about that. And Eric just reminded me. He said, could you put the link to Discord in the chat? So yeah, definitely feel free to like join my Discord group. There's some cool discussions happening on there. I know Eric and other people on there would like to have more people to talk to. So gonna shout out these super chats and then I'm gonna start to wrap up. Shout out to Frank for the super chat. We are Nick, JB, all of us. Oh, okay. I get what you mean. I was about to say, wait, Frank, you're a part of this and you didn't tell me? What is really going on? Shout out to Roger for the super chat. Worker co-ops can replace and surpass what unions were at their height of political influence from FDR to Carter. Sabs, what you think of my driver co-op in New York? Yeah, so Nick, I don't know if you heard about that, but last time, like Roger was mentioning, we were talking about Uber and Lyft and how the judge in California ruled it unconstitutional for them to not be given like employee rights. Basically, Roger was saying in New York, they started their own, a worker co-op, which is a driver co-op. So they're not depending on a company. They're not depending on Uber. They're not depending on Lyft. They started their own thing.
That's actually great. And this is the kind of stuff that the leftist movement need to start highlighting more worker co-ops. That's something that Professor Richard Wolff actually taught me a lot about in the last few years. And this is actually goes back to a criticism that is such on the point that came from Chris Hedges against Bernie Sanders and the squad. His criticism is, why aren't you guys using your massive influence, your massive email list to like increase awareness for worker co-ops? And that's what Chris Hedges was saying. Like, Bernie Sanders did a good job at cutting the Overton window at a certain level, because he never like brings that up as an alternative option. That's not something that they are actively working towards, and that's something that we need as a left movement. So I'm glad to hear about that, and that's kind of stuff that we need to be supporting more often.
Absolutely. Shout out to sorry, hit the wrong one again. Shout out to Alice Hamers, who's a Sabby member. Hey guys, I'm an old lefty. I appreciate you all so much. Thanks so much. And I just want to shout out this other super chat. Shout out to Josana. Look, we did one day without immigrants right after Trump was elected. Look what we did one day without immigrants right after Trump was elected. It had an impact. Even if it's one day, it's worthy. It's a start. Make noise. That's a good point, Josana.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier, that I think we should still show support, because you can just use this to build awareness. So on point as always, Josana. Sorry, Sabby. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say I can easily not buy anything because I don't, as my mom says, I'm cheap. I've always been cheap. It's been ingrained in me. I don't like spending money. I don't know why. I just don't like spending money if I don't have to. So yeah, that's a good point. Shout out to Frank for the super chat. No CC's, Amazon, Walmart for at least a month. See, I can easily not do Walmart. I haven't done Amazon in a while either, actually. But I told people, I know some people, Jackie brought up a good point. She said some people don't have a choice but to use Amazon. They may not be able to get out and about and to go to like Walmart and Target. And I get that too. And I just tell people in that case, if you have Amazon Prime, cancel it. It's expensive now, man. It's like over 100 something a year. Just get rid of it. I'm cheap. I told you guys. Like, try to do things as cheaply as possible. What's your take on that, Rob?
Well, firstly, going back to India Walton and them trying to remove the mayorship because she won. If they're going to do that, it's only fair if they remove Eric Adams from NYC as well. So if you're going to make that point for India Walton, I would say, okay, you got to at least remove Eric Adams as well. Going beyond that, I agree with you guys 100% on everything that we're doing here. It's 100% on point. And I think that it's important, if Bernie Sanders and AOC, which we know now are not going to be the organizers in chief, that's all the more reason for us to keep growing our channels so that we have enough subs that we may step into those shoes one day if we have 50,000 or 100,000, or between all of us, maybe millions of subs. Then we will actually be able to do what Bernie Sanders and the squad are refusing to do by simply going on and promoting these things on our shows. And if I may, one of the things I've been kind of promoting on my show, which is kind of a pragmatic type of general strike, is convincing people that lost their jobs during COVID, which was predominantly millennials and Gen Z. 35% of millennials lost their job at one point or another, and 50% of Gen Z lost their jobs at one point or another during COVID, and many of them have not been able to find work again. What I've been telling them is, don't go back. You're already out of work. Just don't go back. And you're the youngsters. You're the future. Wait until there's a $20 to $25 minimum wage instilled, or wait until you find a job that is literally going to give you a wage that you deserve plus benefits, and just draw a line in the sand. You're already out of work. You're already doing a general strike by no fault of your own because of COVID. So if those numbers are correct and a lot of those people are still out of work, don't go back. Don't go back until you get what you deserve. And then we're making steps towards a general strike that's not really a general strike in the sense of, well, we all got to just, stay home from work for a day or two. No. These people have already lost their jobs due to disaster capitalism and our fumbling of the COVID pandemic, just stay home. And if, as far as the McDonald's workers that are always striking on the 15th, walk off the job and don't go back on the 16th. Screw McDonald's. Those guys are a bunch of McDouchebags, as Jimmy Dore said. Don't go back. Don't go back. And Amazon workers also strike. Don't go back. There are people dying on the factory floor at Frito-Lay. You guys should go on strike and don't come back until you get what you deserve. And if we have more and more of these minor strikes that we can turn into prolonged strikes and also keep the people that were out of work due to COVID and the oncoming depression that's going to get way worse in the future, just don't go back. Don't go back.
Yeah. And speaking of direct action, I do want to shout this out because this is happening tomorrow. There is a protest that is going on in Springfield, Massachusetts. This is in reference to Richard Neal, who is an incredible douchebag. For those who don't know, he ran against Alex. Oh gosh, I always forget Alex's last name.
Alex Morse.
Alex Morse, yes. And
Yep.
Alex Morse, he smeared Alex Morse about basically trying to date underage, like college students. That was not true. It was false. Alex Morse, if you guys don't know, is I think like the youngest mayor in history in Massachusetts or something like that. Like his win was like a big deal. And so Richard Neal is head of the Ways and Means Committee. And Nancy Pelosi has instructed him to not bring the Medicare for All bill to the Ways and Means Committee. So there will be a protest tomorrow in Springfield, Massachusetts towards Richard Neal. That is happening from 2. Let me make my screen a little bit bigger here. Whoopsie. All right, here we go. From 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's going to be at Atwater Terrace and Springfield Street in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat for those of you who can go. I unfortunately will not be there. I have a family event tomorrow that was scheduled like way ahead of time. But shout out to everybody who led this. This was led by Kyle Davis and Quaker Socialists, Joy, a bunch of activists, those who organized the Boston Medicare for All March. We kind of all stayed in touch after that march and decided to talk about next steps. So this is one of the next steps. Another thing that's being done is we sent out tweets as well about people trying to email your representatives and tell them to bring Medicare for All bill to the House floor for a vote. So we did that as well as sending letters to Cynthia Friedman, who is the one who is preventing this bill from being voted on in the House. So I do wanted to show you guys that these are some of the next steps that are being taken. Richard Neal, like I said, again, is an absolute douche. He needs to go. I was really hoping Alex Morse would like defeat him, but he's up there with like Nancy Pelosi bad. Like he's bad.
Yeah, this is why I kind of been telling people to, and I'm still trying to stop myself from doing it. I tell people to retire the term corporate Democrat. Like, just retire it. Corporate Democrat is an oxymoron. They're just Democrats. And depending on how they need you to vote, you can go left in certain situations. But then, like people like Kristen Sinema, for example, she used to support a minimum wage increase. She even tweeted for a $15 minimum wage in 2014. You notice how she stopped advocating for that when the party needed her to? So if you're a loyal Democrat bootlicker like this guy, as Richard Neal, there's no reason to like differentiate between a corporate Democrat and a Democrat, because you're either following the path of Nancy Pelosi or you're not. And a lot of people are following the path of Nancy Pelosi, including a lot of people who voted for her, by the way. But anyway, that's all I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we head out, Rob, Nick, anything you want to plug? Rob, also please let people know where they can find you. I think someone was asking if you were on Twitter as well.
I am. It's Rob_Beekner. Robert Durden is not my real name. That's my pseudonym. I do the political fight club, hence the Durden. So it's Rob_Beekner, B as in boy, UECHNER. on Twitter, and you can just look up my name on YouTube if you want to find my show. And you know me, guys, I'm going to give shout outs to people who are doing good work. Shout out to you guys, Fred Hampton Leftists. You guys are about to be at 8.7 thousand, probably by the end of the night, if I've been tracking correctly here. Sabby, congratulations on 8,000. Your guys' ratios, which you guys know I've done a video on, your ratios between your amount of subs and your viewers are off the charts. Your likes to dislike ratio per video is also off the charts. And those are measurements in how dedicated your audience is to your content, but also how much they like each individual video on a video by video basis. And you guys are absolutely crushing it. If this were March Madness, you guys would both be #1 overall seeds in the bracket. So I got to tell you, you're doing great work. Complete shout out to you guys. Other than that, you guys can look me up on YouTube. I really do kind of make fun of politicians on the daily. That's kind of my thing. So if you're into that stuff and you like, you see, I kind of spitball on ideas. I'm kind of a solutions oriented guy. If you're into that stuff, feel free to look me up.
Awesome. And Steve said, Sabby, please post the link to Rob's show again. People are asking for it. Bump up. Okay, let me do that one more time. Thanks so much for the super chat, Steve. Nick, anything you want to plug?
The most important thing is show support for our new initiative by help sharing, like the hashtag FHL to 10K. That's a very ambitious goal that we have. But other than that, I always want to show solidarity to my comrade. It's always great to talk to Robert. Make sure you guys subscribe on his show. I think Revolutionary Jargon is tomorrow on Friday on Fred Hampton Leftist. So make sure you guys check out RJ. I think his show is a little bit later than usual. And then Facts and Fire podcast on Saturday with Finney on Fred Hampton Leftist Network. Check that out. I stream usually at nights, about 2 or 3 times a week on my channel. Social Still Made, if you guys want to check that out as well. But we upload every single day on Fred Hampton Leftist, so make sure you guys show some love.
Awesome. And I just put the link to Rob's channel in the chat, but I'll also put it in the details tab in this video. I'll put it under there with all those other links that you see as well. Rob, thanks so much for coming on. This has been, I'm glad we got a chance to get together, because last time I was like, no.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, guys. I've been looking forward to this all week. I barely slept yesterday. I can't tell you guys enough how great your work is and how honored I am to be here. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And Nick, thanks so much for popping on. I told you guys Friday night, anything could happen over here. And people are asking for your channel too, Nick, because Nick, don't you have a solo channel as well? The Progressive. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I just commented in the chat. So just click the link in the chat I left, and you guys find my YouTube channel there. I used to stream there all the time, but I kind of sacrificed that to build FHL. So I've been slowly getting back into my old night streams I used to do on YouTube and Twitch. So I usually been doing that about 2-3 times a week at this point, but I'm trying to get much more consistent because FHL is really self-sustaining now. So now you guys can see me do a little bit more late night streams. I just always make sure that I don't stream at the same time a lot of my Fred Hampton Leftist comrades are, but usually probably catch me later at night for me yelling at something. Because my stream is usually just me solo talking to my community. It's fun.
Yeah,
yep.
Always.
And last thing, if I may, remember, guys, if you want to join us and you want to make a difference, start up your own kind of political fight club, as I'm calling it. If you have a phone, you have a show. If you're already complaining and bitching about stupid politicians already, just do it into a microphone. It's very therapeutic. And trust me when I tell you, if you get enough subs, get your word out there and help us out, we can really do some change here. And it's not hard. You can do it. It's a lot of fun. Consider it.
I'm going to add to what Robert says here real quick, because I strongly disagree. And you guys kind of see these people sometimes who they want to gatekeep what it means to be a journalist. We're like, oh, you're not a journalist. You're not a journalist. I call myself a citizen journalist because I truly believe that if you can share a story, even to a few people, that is worth doing, especially in order to counter corporate media. So that's why I got started. I didn't expect anything to blow up. But if you can share a story, share the story, because we need to start this revolution. So that's all I have, Sabby. It's always good to be on your show, especially on your Friday night stream. So if I'm available, I'm always down to hop on.
Yeah, because Nick knows how this goes. Like on Fridays, I'm just like, look, it's the end of the week. We'll talk about important stuff, but at the same time, whatever happens, happens. This is a little bit more chill. Yeah, thanks so much, you guys. Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Max Blumenthal will be here. Don't miss that. That should be a really good show. But thanks for tuning in, you guys. Thanks so much. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a long week. I'm about to say F this job. No, it's like I should stop saying that. Somebody gonna see this one day and be like, oh my God. No, what beer am I drinking? Oh, I forgot to do that. Thanks so much, Thomas. I'm drinking. Have you guys seen this before? It's by Mass Landing Brewing Company. It's called Gunner's Daughter Milk Stout. It is beautifully aromatic milk stout with bold flavors of peanut butter, coffee, and dark chocolate. I put this up in the camera. I don't even know if I'm putting this in the right spot. Anybody familiar with this? This is a popular one. I never thought I'd like something with like this peanut butter flavor, but they do it just right. They don't use too much peanut butter, but anyway, it's Friday. It's Friday. Hey. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. You know how we do this. I got to take this down really quick. What's the ABV? It is 5.5%. I can't do too high because it's too much for me. So you know how it is. But thanks so much, you guys. As we always do, have a good night. Keep up the
See
fight.
you guys. Pleasure meeting you.